The Diversity Book Database. Let's have a look. Good evening everyone, and welcome to this episode of Heiser Says. I thought I'd have a look at this database that's been created to provide children with culturally diverse books. Now, recently in the UK, there was a bookshop that only sold culturally diverse books, and that means people of colour. Essentially it means books where there's no white people in it. Of course. So let's have a read through this. The project by the National Centre for Australian Children's Literature will highlight the importance of multiculturalism in children's story. Okay. Many of us will fondly remember books from our childhood and can recall memories of bedtime stories and their quirky characters. But children's books can also be an important tool for celebrating diversity and creating inclusion in the classroom. This is social engineering through children's books. One of the first books I ever read was Matilda, and the main protagonist was a female character. Do you think that meant I couldn't enjoy the book? Do you think it didn't mean I wasn't proud that I'd actually read a whole book by myself? No, it obviously didn't. This is just engineering. That's what it is. They're pushing an ideological movement, an idea onto these children. And frankly, it's just getting all too common. At Colton Public School in Western Sydney, the majority of students come from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. CULD backgrounds, culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. I would have been one of those because German was my first language at school. I remember always having a ticket on a form. It's why I can't spell. But, technology's meant that's not as important. So teachers try to make sure books on their shelves reflect lived experiences. Okay, here we go. I really try to think about characters in books that could relate to them and also expose them to other experiences of children from different backgrounds. The Year 1 teacher Jessica Palmer told SBS News. Well, if you have people from multiple cultures that have come here to our culture, wouldn't you want to teach them about the culture that they're coming to become a part of, that they've moved to? I'm still a bit annoyed that the amount of emphasis on African culture at the kindergarten my daughter went to means she thinks all of Africa are like living in mud huts. I have to explain to her, no, Mina, that's a stereotype that's out of date. A lot of them live in cities exactly like us. Okay, that's really old. But, that's just the stereotypes they're pushing. And and she didn't learn anything about European culture, anything about Australian culture. I would rather that, maybe she got exposed to a bit of Germanic culture, her family heritage at kindergarten. That's just as valid. Germans are a large minority here in Australia, but they don't make a fuss, unless they get really angry. It makes students well aware of different cultures and makes the class more inclusive and understanding as well. Okay. A new database designed by the National Centre for Australian Children's Literacy hopes to make it easier for teachers, parents and readers to find books which celebrate diversity. Users can search for key concepts in the database, including cultural identity, traditions, migration and language. So essentially they're just adding new fields to a reference database. That's all it is. It's important to be able to relate to a book. If you're not going to relate to it in some way, chances are you're not going to want to read. Good Lord. It's seriously, what do they think? Do they think people can only relate to characters that are exactly like them? No, you can relate to a majority of characters. Other ones, it's the situations and in the environments that you can relate to. Okay. So, Maxine Benba Clark is a children's book author of Afro-Caribbean descent. Afro? Is that to do with the hair or African? She said she grew up in a time where there were very few children's books with characters who looked like her. It's really important for all children to understand their stories are important and they themselves are important. Well, my children read a lot of books where the characters don't look like them. They're fire trucks. They're vegetables. You know, they're magical ponies that have crazy adventures. Or they're Barbie dolls. You know, or G.I. Joes. Right now it's Fireman Sam. Research has indicated diversity in children's books correlates with improved literacy outcomes. Oh, come on. Utter BS. Yeah. Reading to your children will improve their literacy outcomes. Reading to them, exposing them to literature, having them seeing you read, spending time with your children will help them read. Have a look at my interview with the principal of my daughter's school for hints and tips on how to help your children read. Diversity, no. No. I need to find this research that they're basing up because it's not referenced anywhere here, it never is. But I would hazard a guess that maybe they were systematically providing the stories for particular, maybe marginalized groups. Maybe that's why they had better outcomes. That's because when children see themselves in books, they find reading more enjoyable. You know, I mean, it's fine to have multi-ethnic characters in books. That's not a problem, but they shouldn't be making such a big deal about it. If you see a character and you say, I know exactly how they feel, I would feel that way, I would say those things you want to read. There is that link between wanting to read and seeing yourself in books. Okay? Even though they're only in year 1, the children can already recognize why diversity is important in books. They probably can't even pronounce the word diversity or know what it means. They're just responding to how you're prompting them. I like how it's close to me, and it is me, James said. Oh, okay. 7-year-old Abdullah said he enjoys reading books with relatable characters. It might have been that they may have seen someone who looks similar to me and added them in the books. Recent research by Edith Caldwell University found 95% of the children's books in daycare centers featured a Caucasian main character. So what? How many of them aren't Caucasian? How many of them aren't white? How many of them are vegetables? But they probably consider them white vegetables, like, you know, VeggieTales is racist. And many of the books did not include, CALD characters and did not portray them as part of contemporary society. Probably because the books are old. You know, I'm sure if you go to other countries, the statistics will be different. It's for that reason the push for more diverse books isn't just about characters, but also diverse voices telling these stories and being in control of their own narrative. This was my impetus. What kind of books did I want my kids to be reading? What kind of books did I need when I was growing up that I didn't actually have, Ms. Clark said. The database will be free to access and launches in 2019. So guys, let me know, what do you think? You know, is this a good initiative? Is it necessary? Is it unnecessary? Is the fact that they're, you know, the claim here that 95% of them have a white main character, do you think that's a bit racist? You know, in some ways, fantastic, I don't really care. In other ways, the fact that they're making an article out of it and they're pushing it, pushing diversity to first graders, you know, whoop-de-doo. They get that in all their cartoons anyway. So it just feels like ideology being pushed on children. It really does. Guys, let me know in the comments below. What do you get your children reading? Do you read with them every night? You know, what do they want to read? Do they care about the diversity in their books? Thanks for joining me for this episode. Please like, share, and subscribe. I've been a bit exhausted today because you can see behind me I've been building new furniture and a new setup for my workstation there. So that's why this video is a bit later than normal. But thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.